Cosmic Crisp and Honeycrisp apples, two of the great things that nature has to offer. Today's video we're going to be talking about kind of beginners starting out. What do you do when you're getting rolling with a tree? You get it from the nursery or somewhere. How do you start out? What should you do to make sure you're going to have success and wonderful fruit in the years to come? So check out today's video as we talk about Cosmic and Honeycrisp apples. Alright, as we roll into today's video, we're really focusing on kind of the beginnings, the how to start out, kind of that first year planting, some of the initial things you're going to want to do to make sure you have success for years number 2, 3, 4, and down the road, so you can get great fruit, a nice healthy tree. So, little story about this. So the Cosmic Crisp apple was birthed from Honeycrisp and Enterprise apples. Some wonderful scientists, nature people, whoever they are from Washington State University, they got together and they spent like 20-something years figuring this out. So I don't know what's involved in that and making a cosmic baby, but they got the two together and they produced this, they created this, they developed this Cosmic Crisp apple. And it has a lot of the yummy flavors of a Honeycrisp. It's got a great crisp. It's got sweetness, Honeycrisp, but it also has just a slight bit of tart in there. You're like, oh, this is kind of good. And then a huge benefit of this is it's an amazing flavor and the crispness stays for a long time. If you put this in cold storage, this thing lasts longer than most apples that are out there. In fact, commercial producers and sellers, they love this because you can have a wonderful apple in storage, you know, 8, 9 months later in the year, and you take a bite and you're like, oh, I got a fresh apple. They do really well storage wise, and so you're gonna see a lot of these out there. I think there's like millions of these trees getting produced in Washington State. In fact, I think they only sell these currently in Washington State. I think that's the only place they're allowed to sell them, but they're going to be pretty amazing. And then you know the Honeycrisp, if you know much about apples, this has been just a hot apple the last several years. Can get kind of pricey, but there's nothing like it. They don't last the same way that the Cosmic will, but a good apple. It's a beautiful looking apple. You can see this is the Honeycrisp here, which is just an awesome apple too. They don't necessarily last as long, but it's got a little bit more of that yellow-red mix. This, in fact, you'll see a bit more of this in some of the apples, but the Cosmic Crisp comes from, it kind of has like this cosmic, like starry look, whether it's the red flesh or whether it's a flesh that's a little bit more like what this is. They kind of come in different ways, but both amazing apples. The size will depend on how much you prune off some of the apples on the branch. If you get rid of some of the new growth, you'll get bigger apples. If you leave a bunch on there, the apples will be smaller. So that's a whole nother story. So my story, I went out recently to some of the local nurseries and I was looking for trees. I wanted to get one more apple tree. I only really have space for one more. And saw Honeycrisp, wasn't impressed with the tree at that particular location. Just the quality of it, didn't feel good about that. And the Cosmic trees were extremely expensive, so I was like, I don't know if I can pull the trigger on that. But I found a few of the trees up at a large nursery up north of me, and so I grabbed one of them. There was an inexpensive price. I mean, it was like half the price, and looked nice and healthy, good shape. And so I went ahead and got that, and then I had a spot where I could get some Honeycrisp cuttings. So I took a couple cuttings, grafted it onto the Cosmic Crisp tree, as well as a few other apple trees I have, just to see which ones will take. So now I've got a Cosmic Crisp tree with a Honeycrisp graft on there. Now they don't pollinate each other because they're still in like the same family and all that. However, I've got other trees in the area that will pollinate that, so I'm not worried about that. But I'm like, that's the ultimate tree, Cosmic Honeycrisp apple tree. So we'll see how the graft works, but at least I've got the Cosmic. So let me take you into what I'm doing. So you know, behind me I've got, this is actually a Fuji with a couple other grafts on there, but behind that it's kind of hard to see there. In that kind of that brown circle down there, that is the brand new tree. So I'm going to walk you through what this thing looked like, how I dug the hole, and just kind of the process, give you some tips along the way. A few kind of very painful things that you got to do to the tree when you first plant it. It's really critical for great root development and eventually great fruit and growth in the tree. So that part's painful. You'll get to that later in the video. But let me start by digging this hole. I'll show you kind of the process. This was actually, I filmed this yesterday, and then just the way the weather went and things like that, I had to stop. So but let me kind of backtrack, show you how the hole was dug, what I did to kind of prepare the place for the apple tree, kind of walk you through that whole thing, and hopefully this is helpful. There'll be some other videos down the road too on grafting, and we'll do some follow-up videos over the years on how this thing goes, but hopefully you enjoy this, and let's go dig a hole. All right, as we wrap this up, I got called into dinner, and 2.5 hours later realized, oh, I gotta finish up this tree. So just to recap, we've got this tree now put in the ground. I dug the hole twice as wide, twice as deep. Actually, it was probably more like 4 times as wide, and at least 2-3 times as deep. Really got some good compost mixed in with the natural soil that was there. And then after I had this thing planted, I put another layer of about 2 inches of compost all around this to help keep the weeds down, keep this thing moist. Because this first year especially, while the roots are getting developed, I really want to be able to let those roots stay moist and not dry out. Otherwise, lots of problems. But there's one critical thing to do before finishing up the tree, and it's really going to help this thing kick into growth mode. It's going to help it kick into some growth to be able to put some energy towards the roots and not get so strained trying to get to some of these limbs. And as I'll show you when I zoom in here, there are some of these limbs here that are in excellent, I mean, they look beautiful. They're nice and wide. A lot of them are at a good angle, but the roots, and if you remember going back in the video earlier, if you look at the roots, there's not a lot of roots that comes from a nursery. Unless you let this thing sit for another 3-4 months later in the summer, the roots are not developed, and so they've been cut when they took the tree out. So this thing needs to be able to put some energy there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and trim some of these branches back about 50%. We might take out 1 or 2. I'm going to take you also into this pink part. The pink part is a graft that I put in. I love Honeycrisp, and I've tried a couple Cosmic Crisp and love them, so I'm like, I want both, but I'm running out of space for my apple trees, and so I've actually grafted on a couple Honeycrisp pieces onto this tree. So that pink is actually Honeycrisp, so it's going to be a Cosmic Honeycrisp tree, and then I've got a couple other apple trees around where I put some Honeycrisp to see which ones will take and how that grafting works. So perhaps later I'll show you that. But with that, I want to go through and I want to trim some of these branches back and make sure I've got a lot of the energy going towards the root ball. So let me zoom in and I'll show you some of these. So you can see these are almost 90 degrees out, so I'm not really going to want these long term going out like that. That's not going to support fruit real well. I want them going more at an upward angle. So already I know that this thing is not going to be something I keep long term, so I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. So a good chunk of that is gone now. And come back around to this other side, same thing. Now this has a better angle, so I'm going to keep this thing going. I'm going to go back about 2/3. This one here is more perpendicular, so let me zoom in and show you some of these. So you can see here, this one is pretty, almost a 90-degree angle going out. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one back most of the way. I'm looking for a bud. This one's kind of going out sideways. I'm looking to see if there's one pointing up, and there's one right here that's kind of going up and out this way. So I'm going to go right before that. Same thing over here. Now this one has a great angle, so this one I'm going to go about halfway. Okay, if you look carefully, this one here, it's a nice angle, but again, I want to encourage that growth, so I'm looking around here about halfway. I got a bud going down, this one's going up and out kind of towards me right now, so I think I'm going to make that one a keeper. And then down here at the bottom, this one, again, not really quite at that angle I want, so this is going to be a little more aggressive on this one. And I've got a bud on top there, so I'm going to take that back. Well, I want this thing to continue to grow up. I know I'm going to be going for more of this out bowl shape, and with the height of this, I just really wanted to put that energy down here towards the roots. I'm going to take this and I'm going to have this one where I have one going out this direction, that one going out that direction, just to start encouraging that growth out. So looking for a bud that's going opposite direction. Got one there. So we got the Cosmic Crisp tree with the Honeycrisp graft on here. Let's see what this thing does over the season, and there'll be follow-up videos down the road, so stay tuned in, not only for the Cosmic and Honeycrisp, but I've got several other Fuji, Wolf River. If you haven't heard of Wolf River, that's an incredible apple. I'll have to, in fact, here, let me show you a picture of what a Wolf River looks like compared to a normal apple. It's gigantic. As you can see here, there's the apple here, and then there's a normal apple, and then there's an egg, and you can just see, man, this thing is ginormous. Pretty fun to grow when you see these things, and they're great for applesauce and pies, and they're fine for eating. I'd say they're a little bit more I don't know if it's more a little airy, fleshy. They hold their shape pretty well, but not what you get on a Fuji or a Honeycrisp or Cosmic Crisp when those things come out. And so that's a wrap for today's video. Again, if there's any comments, questions that you can put below, that encourages me to want to do more videos on this topic versus some of the other things I've done here in the backyard. We definitely will have more Cosmic Crisp, Honeycrisp updates coming, but hopefully this is helpful. So have a good life.